What's up, devs? I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to build a very popular and common application that companies often use as a practice task in interviews, a movie application. Our backend will be built with Node.js and Express, and our frontend will be React. I'll be building it from scratch, but you can check out the source code right here in the description. So grab your favorite beverage and let's get started. Before we start working on our project, I want to explain the technologies we will be using. We're going to use Node.js, a cross-platform runtime environment for JavaScript. So it means it runs on Linux, Mac OS, and Windows, right? And Node.js allows us to write JavaScript code for the backend instead just in a browser, right? So if you want to learn more, you can check out my JavaScript video. And the second tool we're going to use is actually Express.js framework that was made specifically for Node.js to avoid this boilerplate code. So it makes our routing easier and middleware. So it's kind of a solution for us. Right now we're ready to start building our backend. So first of all, I want to make sure that you already have Node.js installed. So you can go ahead to the website. I left the link in the description. And as soon as you download it, you can open your terminal and check that it's installed by running this command in your terminal called nodejs. So if it does show your version, you can see my screen, you are now ready to move forward. So we're going to create a new folder for our project with our terminal. So I'm going to type mkdir and I'll call my project movies. Let's maybe call it movie backend. Yeah, I think that will be better. So after that, I'm going to, inside the folder, I'm typing cd movies backend. And right now, this is the command that starts Node.js project, npm init. So what is npm? npm stands for Node Package Manager. So it's installed automatically with Node.js, and pretty much it's like help you to manage all your dependencies and install all necessary third-party utilities for your project. So this is actually how we're going to install Express.js. So you see the terminal asks me certain questions like project name, description, entry point. You can just skip them. I'm pressing enter, but I'm going to give a name to the project. So I think you might do the same. And after you're done with your project, we can check out package.json file. So you see this file contains important information about your project. Yes, you can see name here, version, and dependencies. So when we install Express, you're going to see Express in dependencies in your package.json file. Basically, it's kind of like a snapshot what is all your project about. So yeah, right now we have no packages, but we're going to fix it by installing our Express.js. For that, let's use this command, npm install express. And right now, if you check your package.json again, the Express should show up in the dependencies. Voila. So our next step is actually configuration of our backend. If you look at our package.json main key, you will see index.js. This is our entry point, basically, and this is what we need to create. So let's use command touch index.js. Okay. So right now we have a new JavaScript file that is going to be responsible for creating our routes and basically act as our server/backend. First of all, we want to define our express, right? So let's create a variable named express and use specific syntax for Node.js to importing files, require express. So basically we're saying, hey, we're creating variable name express, and everything that our package express currently has, the one that we just installed, right, will be able to be accessed with this express variable we just created, right? So basically we're importing the express module, right? So next we're creating app variable, and we're assigning this express, and we're adding parentheses to it. So basically right now our app is a server instance, and using app, we can define our routes, middleware, configure settings, and also listening on the port, right? And this is what we're going to do right now. So our next step, I want to just define variable named port, and let's assign it 3001 because we're going to use React and default React port is 3000. So next step is actually defining our API routes. The first one will be app.get. So what does it mean? Get is a part of HTTP verbs. We have get, post, put, delete, right? And patch. So these 5 verbs basically means what we can do with resource. Think about resources of data, right? In our case, it will be movie data. What we can do, we can fetch all this movie data, we can update movie data, we can delete movie data, or partially update it, right? So in our case, we're just going to fetch the data, right? So we type in app.get. Inside our parentheses, we're defining our route. In our case, it will be just basically slash, means it's a root. So everywhere, if anyone will go to the route localhost 3001, they're going to see something that we're going to define right now. So inside our parentheses, we're going to say request response, and our body will have response send movie app is running. So as I said, if anyone go to 3001 root, they'll see movie app is running. Very basic one, right? You also can see this example in Express, on Express page. So I want to define another route and we'll call it get movies. So app-get / get movies, and same. We're going to say response send, hey, going to fetch movies for you. Awesome. So we have 2 routes for now. Simple, yes. In one file, yes. Not production, just basically basic simplicity. Okay, and the last thing we need to do, we need to set up our application, Express application, to listen on our port. So we're going to do app.listen. We define in our port. Remember, we already created this. So port. And then I want our terminal to type console log movie app is listening on port number as soon as we run our server. Let's run node index.js. Okay, if everything was done correctly, we should be able to see movie app is listening on port 3001. And if we go check our routes, we should see the messages fetching movie for you. Perfect, everything works. Okay, our next step is to get the movies data from our third-party API. For that, I'm going to use TMDB. It's a very popular free API that provides you data like with movies. So when I was interviewing with my employer, they actually used this website as a reference, as I remember. So yeah, you can go ahead. I'm going to drop the link in the description, so check it out. And what we need to do, first of all, we want to create a new account, right? And then obtain API keys. So quick note about APIs, right? What is API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. Think of it as a set of routes on the backend that you can use to get the data or results you need, right? Some people compare API to a restaurant. You're the customer, the API is a waiter who fetches your order, and the chef represents the backend or service. So, API keys, what are those? These keys are basically authenticators that you use when you try to access the third-party API data, right? So right now we need to sign up. I already have an account, so we just can go ahead and sign up. So after you're done, you can go to subscription over here, API subscription, and basically click on it. And now we're going to see our API key. It's a sequence of number, right? So you need to copy it and save it somewhere. We're going to need it just in a moment. So as already mentioned, API keys are our authenticator. So it's a sensitive information, right? So you should make sure to not post them anywhere on GitHub or the internet. And to keep them safe, we can use a .env file. So this file stores your sensitive information securely and allows you to access it in your project, right? So instead of like putting it
like hard copy it in your code. You can secretly store it in the NV file, use git ignore, do not push it on the GitHub, so you're kind of safe, right? No one will be able to know your API and going to break into your account. Okay, so after that, we need basically to add our key, our API keys we just obtained from the project, to our app, right? So our first step will be create that .env file in your project. Step number 2, we create in git ignore, and I'm going to add a line that contains that .env file, right? To make sure saying, hey, Git, please do not track my .env file. This is safe. If I'm going to push stuff, this is not going to be pushed to my GitHub. Okay, and the last thing we want to do, in our .env file, we want to add API key and copy the value of these API keys that we just got from TMDB website, right? So basically it's done, but since we're using Node and Express, right, we need to actually install this functionality package that will allow us to read from our .env file, right? Because right now Node is kind of dumb and doesn't know, hey, what are you referring to? What is .env? So we need to add a package that will be allowing us to read from this .env file, right? So for that, we're going to use npm install .env -- save. Awesome, now we're finally ready to make our first API call to TMDB. So the website provides API documentation where we can see all the available endpoints. So I'm going to check API reference tab, and now we can see all the routes that we can call to fetch the data. In this tutorial, I'm going to fetch all popular movies, but you can go ahead and select any API you would like to, play around, right? Development should be fun. So let's move to our index.js file and update get movies route body function, right? So we're going do this, and also I forgot to mention, we need to import our .env module. So let's do this first. So in the beginning of our index.js, we're going to type require .env.config. So this is line responsible to loading and make our .env file functional, right? So Node now knows what is env, how to use it, and how to read from it. Okay, so right now let's go ahead and update our get movies. So our first thing, we're going to create const response. So we're creating a variable named response, and I'm going to say await. And if you want to use await in your function, you always have to add async, right? Asynchronous request. So we're not blocking the global thread while waiting for a response from our API. So basically, this concept, asynchronous, await and async, deserves probably a separate video to be able to kind of explain more about it. But for now, simply put, we're just saying that the response variable should get this value from the fetch, right? And the code will not move to the next statement until fetch either succeeds or fails, right? So const response await fetch, and now I'm going to pass my URL that I just got from TMBD, right? And here's the tricky thing where .env is coming. Process.env.api key. So API key is our name variable that you can see in .env file, right? So instead of just hard-coded our API key from TMBD, we just read it, load it from our .env file. So language English page 1. Perfect. So next step, const data, right? So after our TMBD return us back the data, we wanna turn it into JSON, right? So readable format, and then send it back to our client. So basically, what does it mean? Rest.send data will display all the data from TMDB in our route get movies. So remember, from fetching movies for you, now it will be like all list of movies. Let's check this out. Yeah, looks good to me. As you can see, we have a big JSON file with all data about our movies. We have movie ID, poster path, title, video, vote average, and etc, etc. So basically we're done with our backend part, and now it's time for React.